Are precious metals such as the silver and gold in front of you considered rare earth metals? Well, no, not exactly. Precious metals are metals that are rare and have a high economic value due to the various factors such as their scarcity, the use in the industrial process, hedge against currency inflation, and most importantly to me, a store of value as they have been their role throughout history. So, what types of metals are rare earth metals? Well, one that comes to mind is uranium. And what is something that uranium, which is a rare earth metal, and precious metals, which are just rare but not rare earth metals, have in common? You have to mine for them.
Give it to me like.
Welcome to the Paulybuck YouTube channel, everybody. My name is Paul, and I sure am glad to have you with me on this one here today. So, precious metals, rare earth metals, they do have that one thing in common, and that they have to be mined for. Today, we are looking at a Canadian mining company that mines uranium. Traction Uranium is the name of the company, and let's just dive right into them. All right, folks. Traction Uranium can be found on the Canadian Securities Exchange under the ticker TRAC and over the counter at TRCTF. Traction's strategy is to generate or acquire early stage exploration opportunities and the advance towards development stages of activities by our experienced team. By business partnerships and joint venture agreements, Traction's current focus is exploring on its 2 uranium projects in the Athabasca Basin of Saskatchewan. Traction Uranium is also a member of the Saskatchewan Mining Association. The Saskatchewan Mining Association, or SMA, is an industrial driven organization representing the mining and mineral exploration industry with over 25 mine operations in the province. The SMA is the voice of the mining industry in Saskatchewan. SMA advocates on the behalf of members on issues related to federal regulatory changes, develops and supports educational outreach programs, organizes and hosts public outreach and membership events. So, Traction Uranium could be in the right place at the right time, primed for success in their Athabasca mining region. All right, so something unthinkable just happened a year or two ago. European lawmakers, a law designing nuclear and sustainable energy source as part of the system that was intended to influx direct investments in clean energy. Russia supplies almost 10% of the world's uranium, but it could cut off the supply to the world's nations at any given moment. Russia and China fully leverage energy dominance to their geographical advantage. America, right here, is dangerously close to losing our uranium fuel industrial base. We are nearly completely dependent on foreign uranium imports, state owned entities in Russia. Nations that were previously dead set against nuclear energy are now leaning into nuclear friendliness. Finland has recently started up its first new reactor in over 40 years. The United Kingdom announces plans to increase nuclear capacity from 7 gigawatt to 24 gigawatt by 2050. France, which is already depends on nuclear for 70% of its electricity, said it would reverse plans to shut down older reactors and build another 6 new by 2050. The German Economic Ministry is considering extending the use of its 3 nuclear plants as public support for nuclear energy increases due to the current fuel shortage and the prospects of permanent cutoffs of Russia's gas. The Netherlands plans to build at least 2 new reactors in the coming years. Meanwhile, in the US, the difficulty of meeting clean energy goals and surging electricity demands are spurring a growing number of political leaders to take a fresh, new look at nuclear power. Clearly, the uranium market will benefit from big dollar governments. Really, the US and other nations have no choice except to adopt nuclear power as a fuel source. More than 130 counties have now set or considering a policy target of reducing emissions to net zero, including China by 2060 and US by 2030. Experts predict that solar and wind can only meet around 70% of the world's energy demand, so there's a huge gap to fill. As of 2020, global uranium mine productions covered only about 74% of the world's reactors requirements. Analytic reports of the market deficit to continue throughout 2022. Meanwhile, the Financial Review states that the U.S.'s domestic uranium industry is limited to just one remaining commercial enrichment plant. Virtually no U.S. uranium production, despite operating the world's largest nuclear reactors fleet. ESG and uranium, nuclear is the zero emissions clean energy source. It generates power through fusion, which is the process of splitting uranium atoms to produce the energy. According to the Nuclear Energy Institute, the NEI, the United States avoided more than 471 million metric tons of carbon dioxide emissions in 2020. That's the equivalent of removing 100 million cars from the road and more than all other clean energy sources combined. Nuclear energy's land footprint is small despite producing massive amounts of carbon free power. Nuclear energy produces more electricity on less land than any other clean air source. A typical 1,000 megawatt nuclear facility in the United States needs a little more than 1 square mile to operate. The NEI says wind farms require 360 times more land to produce the same amount of electricity, and solar plants required 75 times more space. Now, living in the thumb of Michigan, I see that with my own eyes. We have wind farms, we have solar farms, and they are covering a massive, massive area of land. Here's a little fun fact chart for you to look at. One uranium pellet equals 7,000 cubic feet of natural gas, 120 gallons of oil, 1 ton of coal. All of the used nuclear fuel produced by the U.S. nuclear energy industry over the past 60 years could fit on a single football field at the depths less than 10 yards. A strategic uranium reserve would likely be rolled into a new program. The bipartisan infrastructure signed into law provides a $6 billion nuclear credit program for qualifying nuclear plants, with a priority given to the reactors using uranium produced in the United States. The United States has set a goal to reach 100% carbon pollution free electricity by 2035. Nuclear energy is absolutely essential, says U.S. Energy Secretary Jennifer Granholm, who, if you are in Michigan like me, you know that name very well, for she was our governor. The second largest source of electricity, the largest source of carbon-free power generation. All right, folks, so that was a little bit on traction, uranium. Take a look at them yourself. All of their information is going to be in the description below, including some websites and some recent news. Now, I do realize that over-the-counter stocks are typically risky business when it comes to doing any type of investing. So I do urge you to do your own due diligence, go to the website, check them out, see if it's something you're interested in. And if so, we're going to be going clean by 2035, and uranium and nuclear is probably going to get us there. So I want to thank you all for joining me on this one, and I will see you all on the next one. Thanks, everybody.